Popes, prophecies, and the end of the world. That is what many people are talking about today with the passing of Pope Francis, who some say was the last pope. But what if I told you that some claim there's a medieval prophecy that supposedly predicts every pope, including the final one, who brings about the destruction of Rome and the Last Judgment? It's called the Prophecy of the Popes, and it's attributed to Saint Malachy, a 12th century Irish bishop. But is it real? Or is it just another clever hoax that fooled the faithful? Today we're diving into the strange and fascinating world of this so-called prophecy. And trust me, by the end, you'll know whether it's real or if it belongs in the fiction section. The Prophecy of the Popes is a list of 112 short Latin phrases, each supposedly describing a pope from Celestine II in 1143, all the way to the final pope, a man ominously named Petrus Romanus, or Peter the Roman. Now, according to the prophecy, this final pope will shepherd the church throughout the Great Tribulation, and under his reign the city of the seven hills, that's Rome, will be destroyed, and the last judgment will follow. Now, each Latin phrase is meant to match something about the corresponding pope: his name, family coat of arms, birthplace, or even a defining moment in his pontificate. For example, they apply Pastor Angelicus, angelic pastor, to Pope Pius XII, a man remembered for his scholarly and pastoral image. Now, this prophecy has been floating around in both Catholic and non-Catholic conspiracy circles for years. And every time a new pope is elected, people start matching him to his prophetic nickname. So where did the prophecy come from? Well, here's the twist. Even though St. Malachy died in the year 1148, the prophecy wasn't discovered until 1595, over 400 years later, when a Benedictine monk named Arnold Wyon published it in a book called Lignum Vitae. Now, that's already a huge red flag. We're talking about a document that supposedly sat completely unnoticed for 4 centuries, and no mention of it by Malachy's contemporaries, not even St. Bernard of Clairvaux, who wrote Malachy's biography. That's pretty conspicuous. The manuscript just appears in the middle of a papal conclave, which is incredibly odd and also very convenient. But more on that in a moment. Let's talk evidence, because there's a lot of it pointing to forgery. First, there's the glaring fact that the descriptions of popes before 1590 are weirdly accurate, like shockingly accurate. The phrases align with names, heraldry, personal histories. It's almost too good to be true. Then, once you hit the popes after 1590, the predictions suddenly get really vague. You really have to squint to make the motto fit. Like astrological horoscopes, they're flexible enough to mean almost anything. Second, the timing is very suspicious. The prophecy surfaced right as the 1590 conclave was happening, and one of the cardinals being pushed for the papacy was Simoncelli, whose hometown was Orvieto, which was known in Latin as Urbs Vitus, or the Old City. The prophecy's next line, Ex Antiquitate Urbis, from the Old City. Now, what are the odds? Historians believe the prophecy was likely written during or just before the conclave to give Simoncelli a supernatural boost in the voting. Third, let's look at the writing itself. Latin scholars have noted that the style of the prophecy is characteristic of late 16th century Latin, not 12th century Latin. The vocabulary, grammar, and rhetorical patterns match the Renaissance, not the medieval period. And fourth, there's the silence. No saint, no medieval chronicler, no one for 400 years says a word about it. That's not just unlikely, it's basically impossible if the prophecy were real and actually came from a canonized saint. So if it's fake, why do people believe it? Simple. Because people love a great conspiracy theory about the end of the world, and it's ambiguous enough to be endlessly reinterpreted to fit any situation. Just like Nostradamus or modern internet prophets, the phrases are short and vague, which makes them easy to apply retroactively. Take John Paul II, for example. His motto in the prophecy was De Laboris Solis, from the labor of the sun. Now, people tried to connect that to a solar eclipse on the very day of his birth and death. But that's a stretch, and the match only looks impressive because people wanted to make it fit. And it's also just dramatic. People are really naturally drawn to apocalyptic narratives. A list of secret papal predictions leading up to the end of the world, that sells books. It gets views. And in times of crisis, people are looking for signs, patterns, something to explain the chaos. Now here's something important. The Catholic Church has never endorsed this prophecy. It's not part of Catholic teaching. In fact, most scholars and theologians, and even the Vatican, treat it as if it's non-authoritative and inauthentic. There's no church document affirming its legitimacy, and no pope has ever cited it as trustworthy. It's simply not considered a valid form of prophecy, unlike, say, approved Marian apparitions. But let's address the big question. I know some of you are thinking, was Pope Francis the last pope? Is he the mysterious Peter the Roman, the final pope in the Malachy list? Some websites and YouTubers love to jump on this idea, and they're already doing so the very day after Pope Francis passed away. They point out that Francis is supposedly the 112th pope on the list. They try to connect him to Petrus Romanus. Even though his name was Jorge, he was from Argentina, and he took the name Francis, not Peter. It doesn't exactly scream out Peter the Roman. Now, to make the theory work, people get creative. They say he's a Jesuit and the Jesuit order was founded in Rome. Or his papal name honors Francis of Assisi, whose real name was Giovanni di Pietro, Peter. Or he leads from Rome, so that makes him Roman. But basically the vast majority of popes have ruled from Rome. But here's the real kicker. The prophecy itself never says that Francis is the final pope. The 112th motto is Gloria Olivae, glory of the olive. That line is often linked to Benedict XVI, not Francis. The alleged final pope, Petrus Romanus, is actually unnumbered and appears after the 112th line in some versions of the text. So even if you take the prophecy seriously, which again you probably shouldn't, it doesn't clearly point to Francis. So what's the real story behind the prophecy of the popes? It's likely a Renaissance-era hoax, clever, mysterious, and compelling, but ultimately not of divine origin. And when you peel back the layers, it tells us more about our obsession with the end times and papal intrigue than it does with the future. Well, if you found this interesting, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button for more deep dives, and let me know in the comments what other religious mysteries or conspiracy theories you want me to unpack next. Until next time, keep learning, be discerning, and seek the truth. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the content. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the like button, and if you want to support the channel, visit patreon.com/Reason and Theology.